Have you ever wondered why life feels like such an uphill battle? Why, despite your best efforts, you find yourself constantly wrestling with worry, struggling against circumstances, and exhausting yourself in the pursuit of peace and success? You're not alone. Millions of people wake up every day carrying the heavy burden of stress, mental, emotional, and spiritual tension that seems to follow them like a shadow. They push harder, work longer, and worry more, believing that effort alone will unlock the doors to happiness and fulfillment. But the harder they try, the more elusive peace becomes. But what if there was another way? What if the very act of straining against life was the source of your problems, not the solution? What if you could discover how to live with natural ease, flowing with life's currents rather than fighting against them? In this book, you'll discover the timeless principles that transform struggle into serenity, effort into ease, and strain into strength. You'll learn why fighting against life's currents only creates more turbulence, and how aligning with the deeper laws of the mind and spirit can bring about effortless transformation. Most importantly, you'll gain practical tools to apply this wisdom immediately, creating lasting change in every area of your life. Living without strain isn't about passive resignation or wishful thinking. It's about discovering the intelligent force that flows through all life and learning to work with it rather than against it. When you master these principles, you'll find that doors open where once there were walls, solutions appear where once there were problems, and peace emerges where once there was only struggle. Your journey to effortless living begins now. Keep listening and discover the freedom that has been waiting for you all along. How to use this book. This edition isn't just a book, it's a workbook. Don't let the brevity and simplicity of this book fool you. Living without strain is a lifelong practice. Its application requires persistence and faith, but the rewards are immense. The way to use this workbook is to listen through its entirety and then go back and find the exercise that addresses your most present pressing need. Then practice that exercise until it becomes your default way of thinking. There's no tests or time limits, and you only fail if you quit. Please don't quit. Once you've ingrained one exercise into your way of thinking, then move on to the next and wash, rinse, and repeat. Note, if you have some other issue arise in your life that takes priority, it's totally okay and advised to change to the exercise that addresses that pain. Welcome. Today we bring you Living Without Strain by Dr. Joseph Murphy. Chapter 1. The Nature of Strain. Strain isn't a natural state of being. It's a learned response to life that we've mistaken for necessity. Like a swimmer fighting against a current, we exhaust ourselves, battling the very forces that could carry us to our destination if we learned to work with them instead. At its core, strain emerges from a fundamental misunderstanding about how life works. We believe that we have to force outcomes through sheer willpower, that we must carry every burden alone, and that constant vigilance and worry somehow protect us from harm. This belief system creates a state of chronic tension that permeates every aspect of our existence. The truth is that strain is always a signal, a message from your deeper wisdom that you're working against the natural flow of life rather than with it. When you feel that familiar tightness in your chest, that mental spinning, or that sense of pushing against an immovable wall, you're receiving valuable feedback. Your inner being is telling you that there's an easier way. Consider how nature operates without strain. The oak tree doesn't struggle to grow, it just allows the life force within it to express itself. The river doesn't fight to reach the ocean. It follows the path of least resistance. The sun doesn't strain to give light. It shines because that's its nature. In the same way, your highest good seeks to express itself through you naturally and effortlessly when you remove the barriers of strain and resistance. Here's an exercise. For the next 24 hours, become aware of strain in your body and mind. When you notice tension, stop and ask yourself, how can I approach this with more ease? Then take 3 deep breaths and consciously relax your shoulders. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Control. One of the greatest sources of strain in human life is the illusion that we must control everything. We grip tightly to outcomes, people, and circumstances, believing that our constant management and manipulation will ensure our safety and success. But this very grasping creates the tension and resistance that blocks the natural flow of good into our lives. True mastery isn't about forcing external circumstances to bend to our will. It's about governing our own thoughts, reactions, and inner state regardless of what's happening around us. When you release the need to control what's beyond your influence and focus instead on what's within your power, your thoughts, attitudes, and responses, you discover a profound sense of freedom and effectiveness. The universe operates according to intelligent laws that are far more sophisticated than our limited human perspective can fully grasp. When we try to micromanage every detail in our lives, we interfere with this greater intelligence. It's like a passenger trying to fly a plane while the skilled pilot is already at the controls. Our job isn't to control the flight path, but to trust the process and enjoy the journey. This doesn't mean becoming passive or irresponsible. It means taking inspired action from a place of inner peace, rather than frantic action from a place of fear and stress. When you align the natural flow of life, you find that right actions arise spontaneously and effortlessly. Here's an exercise. Identify one situation you've been trying to control. Write it down, then write, "I release my need to control this outcome and trust in the perfect unfolding of my highest good." Read this statement 3 times with genuine intention and feeling. Chapter 3. The Power of Letting Go. Letting go is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in personal development. Many people fear that releasing their grip on life means giving up, becoming lazy, or allowing negative circumstances to overwhelm them. In reality, letting go is one of the most powerful actions you can take. It's a master key that unlocks the door to effortless living. When you let go, you're not abandoning your dreams or desires. You're releasing the stress, worry, and forced effort that actually prevents those dreams from manifesting. Think of your desires as seeds planted in the fertile soil of consciousness. Stress is like constantly digging up the seeds to check if they're growing. Letting go is like trusting the natural process of growth and simply watering the soil with faith and positive expectation. Letting go creates space. Space for new possibilities, space for creative solutions, and space for the infinite intelligence of life, or God, to work on your behalf. When your mind is cluttered with worry and your energy is tied up in resistance, there's no room for inspiration and guidance to enter. But when you release and relax, you become a clear channel for wisdom and right action. The practice of letting go isn't a one-time event, but a moment-by-moment choice. Throughout each day, you'll find opportunities to release tension, surrender outcomes, and trust in the process of life. Each time you choose to let go rather than hold on, you strengthen your capacity for effortless living. Here's a story. Sarah had been searching for her dream job for 8 months. Every day she scoured job boards, sent countless applications, and networked frantically. The harder she tried, the more rejections she received. She was exhausted, discouraged, and beginning to doubt her worth. One evening, overwhelmed by another rejection email, Sarah sat in her garden and simply surrendered. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered to the stars. "I'm letting go. If there's a perfect job for me, please let it find me." For the first time in months, she felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. The next morning, instead of job hunting, Sarah decided to volunteer at a local animal shelter, something she had always wanted to do but felt she didn't have time for. While walking a rescue dog, she struck up a conversation with another volunteer who mentioned that her company was looking for someone with Sarah's exact skills. 3 weeks later, Sarah started her dream job at a company she had never even heard of, with better pay and benefits than she had dared hope for. The opportunity had been waiting for her all along, but it could only reach her when she stopped straining and created space for it to appear. Here's an exercise. Before bed tonight, Place your hands on your heart and say, I release all stress and worry from this day. I trust that everything I need is coming to me in perfect timing. Feel the relief in your body as you speak these words. Chapter 4. The Wisdom of Non-Resistance. Resistance is the root of all suffering and the enemy of all progress. When we resist what's happening in our lives, whether it's a difficult person, an unwanted circumstance, or even our own emotions, we create internal friction that manifests as stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. Non-resistance, on the other hand, is the pathway to peace and the foundation of effortless transformation. Non-resistance doesn't mean passive acceptance of harmful situations or abandoning your power to create positive change. It means ceasing to fight against reality and instead working skillfully with what is present. When you stop wasting energy on resistance, that energy becomes available for creative solutions and inspired action. Consider the martial artist who defeats a larger and stronger opponent not through force, but by redirecting the opponent's energy. Or think of the river that carves through solid rock, not by fighting it, but by persistently flowing around and through it. This is the power of non-resistance. It transforms obstacles into opportunities and problems into stepping stones. The practice of non-resistance begins with accepting this present moment exactly as it is. This doesn't mean you have to like everything that's happening, but it means you stop arguing and straining against reality. From this place of acceptance, you can respond rather than react, create rather than struggle, and flow rather than fight. Here's an exercise. When something frustrates you today, pause and silently say, I don't resist this moment. I am open to the lesson and the opportunity it contains. Notice how this shifts your energy and perspective. Chapter 5. Trusting the process. Life isn't a series of random events, but an intelligent process that's always working for your highest good, even when appearances suggest otherwise. Trusting this process is essential for living without stress, but it's one of the most challenging aspects of effortless living because it requires faith in what can't always be seen or understood by the rational mind. Trust isn't blind optimism or naive wishful thinking. It's a deep knowing that there is a greater intelligence at work in your life, an intelligence that sees the bigger picture and orchestrates events in ways that serve your ultimate growth and happiness. This intelligence, synonymous with God, works through what we call coincidences, synchronicities, and seeming setbacks that later reveal themselves as blessings in disguise. When you trust the process, you stop second-guessing every decision and questioning every delay. You understand that timing isn't always your timing, and that what appears to be a detour may actually be the most direct path to your destination. This trust allows you to remain calm in uncertainty and patient in the face of apparent obstacles. Developing trust is like building a muscle. It grows stronger with practice. Each time you choose to trust rather than worry, to have faith rather than fear, you strengthen your capacity to live with ease and flow. You begin to see evidence everywhere that life is indeed working on your behalf. Here's an exercise. Write down 3 past experiences where something that seemed negative at the time later led to something positive. Keep this list handy as a reminder that the process can be trusted, even when you can't see the outcome. Chapter 6. The Art of Allowing. Allowing is the gentle art of creating space for your good to manifest without forcing or manipulating outcomes. It's the difference between desperately grasping for what you want and confidently expecting it to arrive in perfect timing. When you master the art of allowing, you become a magnet for positive experiences rather than someone who chases after them. Allowing begins with the understanding that your desires aren't separate from you. They're expressions of the life force seeking to expand through you. Just as a flower naturally blooms when conditions are right, your dreams and goals will naturally manifest when you create the right internal conditions. These conditions aren't strain and struggle, but peace, faith, and joyful expectation. The practice of allowing involves maintaining a state of relaxed confidence about your desired outcomes while remaining open to how they might appear. Often, what we want comes to us in ways we never could have planned or imagined. When we're too rigid about the how, we may miss the very opportunities we've been seeking. Allowing also means being receptive to the gifts that life is constantly offering. Many people are so focused on what they lack that they fail to notice the abundance that already surrounds them. When you cultivate an attitude of allowing, you become aware of the countless ways that life is supporting and blessing you every day. Here's a story. Michael had been struggling to grow his small business for 3 years. He worked 16-hour days, stressed out about every expense, and constantly worried about the competition. Despite his intense efforts, his business remained stagnant and he was on the verge of burnout. During a rare weekend off, Michael attended a workshop on stress reduction where he learned about the principle of allowing. Skeptical but desperate, he decided to experiment with a different approach. Instead of forcing and pushing, he began every day by setting a clear intention for his business success and then releasing attachment to how it would happen. He started delegating tasks he had been micromanaging, saying no to opportunities that didn't feel aligned, and actually taking time to rest and recharge. To his amazement, within 6 months his business began to flourish. New clients appeared through unexpected referrals. A competitor approached him about a profitable partnership, and he discovered a passion for a service he had never considered offering. By allowing rather than forcing, Michael had created the space for his business to grow naturally and sustainably. He learned that success wasn't about working harder, but about working in harmony with the natural flow of abundance. Here's an exercise. Each morning this week, set a clear intention for something you desire, then add, "This or something better now manifests for my highest good." Throughout the day, notice and appreciate any signs of progress, no matter how small. Chapter 7. The Flow State. The flow state is that magical experience where action becomes effortless and time seems to disappear and everything falls into place with remarkable ease. Athletes call it being in the zone. Artists describe it as pure inspiration, and spiritual teachers recognize it as alignment with the divine flow of life. This state isn't reserved for special moments or gifted individuals. It's your natural birthright and can become your normal way of being. Flow occurs when you're fully present, completely engaged, and free from the mental chatter of doubt, worry, and self-consciousness. In this state, you're not thinking about what you're going to do. You're simply being and doing simultaneously. There's no separation between the doer and the action, no strain between intention and execution. To cultivate flow in your daily life, you must learn to quiet the mind and trust your intuitive wisdom. This means spending less time planning every detail and more time tuning into the subtle guidance that's always available to you. It means acting from inspiration rather than obligation and following your energy rather than forcing yourself through tasks that drain you. The more you experience flow, the more you realize that this is how life is meant to be lived, not as a struggle against opposing forces, but as a dance with the intelligent energy that moves through all things. When you're in flow, right actions arise spontaneously, solutions appear effortlessly, and life becomes a joyful expression of your deepest nature. Here's an exercise. Choose one routine activity today, washing dishes, walking, writing emails, and do it with complete presence and attention. Notice how different it feels when you're fully engaged rather than mentally elsewhere. Chapter 8. Releasing Mental Tension. Mental tension is perhaps the most pervasive from all stress in modern life. Our minds have become like computers with too many programs running simultaneously, constantly processing, analyzing, worrying, and planning until we feel overwhelmed and exhausted. Learning to release mental tension is crucial for effortless living because a relaxed mind is a clear mind, and a clear mind is a powerful mind. Most mental tension comes from trying to solve problems through repetitive thinking rather than through insight and inspiration. We replay scenarios, rehearse conversations, and imagine worst-case outcomes, believing that this mental activity is productive. In reality, this kind of thinking is like spinning your wheels in mud. Lots of motion, but no forward progress. The key to releasing mental tension is learning to distinguish between productive thinking and mental spinning. Productive thinking is focused, purposeful, and leads to clarity or action. Mental spinning is repetitive, anxiety-driven, and leads nowhere except to more confusion and stress. When you catch yourself in mental spinning, the solution isn't to think harder, but to stop thinking altogether and allow your mind to rest. A relaxed mind is naturally intelligent and creative. When you release mental tension, you create space for fresh insights, innovative solutions, and intuitive guidance to emerge. Many of the greatest discoveries and breakthroughs in human history haven't come through forced mental effort, but through moments of relaxed awareness and open receptivity. Here's an exercise. Set a timer for 5 minutes and practice this simple technique. When thoughts arise, imagine them as clouds passing through the sky of your mind. Don't fight them or follow them. Just observe them drifting by. Return to this practice whenever you feel mentally overwhelmed. Chapter 9. Emotional Freedom. Emotions are the language of the soul, providing valuable information about our inner state and our relationship to life. But many people live in emotional strain because they have never learned to work skillfully with their feelings. They either suppress emotions, believing them to be weaknesses, or become overwhelmed by them, allowing feelings to dictate their actions and decisions. Emotional freedom comes from understanding that you're not your emotions. You are the awareness that experiences emotions. This distinction is crucial because it means you can feel your feelings fully without being controlled by them. You can acknowledge anger without acting destructively, experience sadness without drowning in despair, and feel fear without being paralyzed by it. The practice of emotional freedom involves neither suppressing nor indulging emotions, but allowing them to flow through you naturally. Emotions, like weather patterns, are temporary experiences that arise, peak, and pass away when we don't resist them. When you try to hold on to pleasant emotions or push away unpleasant ones, you create emotional strain and block the natural flow of feeling. True emotional mastery isn't about feeling good all the time, but about maintaining your center regardless of what emotions are present. When you develop this capacity, you discover that emotions become allies rather than enemies, providing guidance and energy for your journey through life. Here's a story. Lisa had always been what others called too sensitive. She felt everything deeply: joy, sadness, anger, and fear, and often found herself overwhelmed by the intensity of her emotions. At work, she struggled to speak up in meetings because she was afraid of becoming emotional. In relationships, she either shut down completely or exploded in dramatic outbursts. Everything changed when Lisa learned to view her emotions as messengers rather than masters. Instead of judging her feelings as good or bad, she began to ask, "What is this emotion trying to tell me?" When she felt angry, she looked for boundaries that needed to be set. When she felt sad, she honored her need for comfort and connection. When she felt afraid, she examined what felt unsafe and took appropriate action. Gradually, Lisa discovered that her sensitivity was actually a gift. Her emotional awareness helped her navigate relationships with greater wisdom, make decisions that truly aligned with her values, and create art that touched people's hearts. By embracing her emotions rather than fighting them, she transformed what she had seen as a weakness into her greatest strength. Here's an exercise. When you experience a strong emotion today, stop and ask, "What is this feeling trying to teach me?" Listen for the answer without judgment. Then thank the emotion for its message before consciously releasing it. Chapter 10. Physical Ease. The body is a faithful mirror of the mind and spirit. When we live in mental and emotional strain, the body responds with tension, fatigue, and dis-ease. Conversely, When we cultivate inner peace and flow, the body naturally relaxes into a state of vitality and well-being. Physical ease isn't just about the absence of tension. It's about the presence of life force flowing freely through every cell of your being. Most physical tension is unnecessary and habitual. We hold our shoulders tight when concentrating, clench our jaws when stressed, and breathe shallowly when anxious. These patterns become so automatic that we forget what it feels like to be truly relaxed. Learning to release tension is like remembering a language you once knew fluently but had forgotten how to speak. The breath is the bridge between the conscious and unconscious, the voluntary and involuntary, the mind and the body. When you breathe deeply and rhythmically, you send a signal to your entire nervous system that it's safe to relax. This simple act can transform your physical state in moments and create a foundation for lasting ease and vitality. Physical ease also comes from moving your body in ways that feel natural and joyful rather than forced and punishing. Exercise should be a celebration of what your body can do, not a punishment for what you ate or how you look. When you approach physical activity with appreciation and playfulness, your body responds with increased energy and resilience. Here's an exercise. 3 times today, do a body scan. Start at the top of your head and slowly move your attention down through your body, consciously relaxing each part. Pay special attention to your jaw, shoulders, and stomach, common places where tension accumulates. Chapter 11. Relationships without strain. Relationships are often the greatest source of both joy and strain in human life. We enter relationships with expectations to try to change others to meet our needs and exhaust ourselves attempting to control outcomes we can't control. But relationships can become sources of effortless joy when we learn to love without stress, communicate without force, and connect without losing ourselves. The foundation of stress-free relationships is accepting others exactly as they are, while maintaining clear boundaries about what you will and won't accept in your own life. This paradox, total acceptance combined with clear limits, creates space for authentic connection without the drama and manipulation that characterizes strained relationships. Most relationship strain comes from trying to get something from others rather than giving freely from your own fullness. When you approach relationships from a place of neediness or expectation, you create pressure that pushes people away. When you approach relationships from a place of wholeness and generosity, you create an atmosphere that draws people closer. The key to effortless relationships is remembering that you can't change anyone but yourself. When you focus on being the kind of person you'd want to be in relationships with, loving, honest, supporting, and authentic, you naturally attract relationships that reflect these qualities back to you. Here's an exercise. Choose one important relationship in your life. For the next week, focus only on what you can give to this relationship rather than what you can get. Notice how this shift in focus affects the dynamic between you. Chapter 12. Work and Purpose. Work becomes strain when it's disconnected from purpose, driven by fear, or pursued solely for external rewards. When your work aligns with your deeper values and natural talents, it transforms from drudgery into expression, from obligation to opportunity. The goal isn't to eliminate all effort from work, but to ensure that your efforts flow from inspiration rather than desperation. Purpose isn't something you find out there, but something you bring to whatever you're doing. You can find meaning in the most mundane tasks when you connect them to something larger than yourself, whether that is serving others, expressing creativity, or contributing to a cause you believe in. Purpose transforms work from a means to an end into an end in itself. The strain in work often comes from trying to force outcomes, comparing yourself to others, or working from a place of fear about security and success. When you work from a place of trust, trusting your abilities, trusting the process, and trusting that your contribution matters, work becomes a natural expression of who you are rather than something you have to do. Effortless work doesn't mean easy work. It means work that flows from your authentic self, utilizes your natural strengths, and contributes to something meaningful. When these elements align, even challenging tasks feel energizing rather than draining because you're working with the grain of your nature rather than against it. Here's a story. David had climbed the corporate ladder for 15 years, achieving everything he thought he wanted: a corner office, a six-figure salary, and a prestigious title. But he felt empty and exhausted, going through the motions of a life that looked successful from the outside, but felt meaningless from the inside. The turning point came during a company retreat when David was asked to mentor a young intern that reminded him of himself at that age: eager, idealistic, and full of dreams. As David shared his experience and watched the young man's eyes light up with possibility, he remembered why he'd entered this field in the first place: to solve problems and to help people. David began to approach his existing job differently, looking for ways to mentor others, streamlining processes, and contributing to projects that excited him. He stopped working late just to impress others and started focusing on work that truly mattered. To his surprise, his performance improved, his stress decreased, and he began to enjoy Monday mornings again. Eventually, David transitioned into a consulting role where he could focus entirely on mentoring and problem solving. His income initially decreased, but his satisfaction soared. He had discovered that the path to fulfilling work wasn't about changing jobs, but about changing his relationship to work itself. Here's an exercise. Write down 3 ways your current work, paid or unpaid, serves others or contributes to something meaningful. If you struggle to find 3, brainstorm how you might bring more purpose to what you already do. Chapter 13. Money and Abundance. Money is one of the most emotionally charged topics in human experience, and our relationship with it often becomes a source of tremendous strain. We worry about not having enough, feeling guilty about wanting more, and exhaust ourselves in the pursuit of financial security that always seems just out of reach. But money, like everything else in life, flows more easily when we release strain and align with natural principles of abundance. The strain around money usually stems from scarcity thinking, the belief that there isn't enough to go around and that we have to compete, hoard, and struggle to get our share. This mindset creates the very limitations it fears because it closes us off from creative opportunities and generous impulses that actually generate wealth and abundance. True abundance isn't about accumulating vast sums of money, but about developing a consciousness of sufficiency and flow. When you trust that your needs will be met, you make decisions from wisdom rather than fear. When you give generously from whatever you have, you create a circulation of energy that brings more good into your life. When you appreciate what you already possess, you attract more to appreciate. The key to effortless prosperity is aligning your relationship with money with your deeper values and purpose. Money becomes a tool for expressing your values rather than an end in itself. When you focus on creating value for others, serving genuine needs, and contributing your unique gifts, money flows naturally as a byproduct of your meaningful work. Here's an exercise. For 1 week, practice gratitude for money in all its forms. Thank the cashier, appreciate the coins in your pocket, and acknowledge every financial transaction as an exchange of energy. Notice how this shifts your relationships with money from anxiety to appreciation. Chapter 14. Health and Vitality. Health isn't merely the absence of disease, but the presence of vibrant life force flowing freely through your entire being. When you live without strain, your body's natural healing and regenerative powers operate at their optimal level. Conversely, chronic stress and tension suppresses immune function, disrupt sleep, and create the conditions for illness and premature aging. The body has an innate wisdom that knows how to heal, balance, and maintain itself when we create the right conditions. These conditions include not only proper nutrition, exercise, and rest, but also mental peace, emotional balance, and spiritual alignment. Health is a whole person experience that can't be separated from how you think, feel, and live. Most health strain comes from fighting against the body rather than working with it. We ignore signals of fatigue, override hunger and fullness cues, and treat symptoms without addressing underlying causes. True health comes from listening to your body's wisdom and responding with compassion and intelligence rather than force and neglect. The foundation of effortless health is self-care that feels nurturing rather than punitive. This means choosing foods that energize rather than deplete you, moving your body in ways that feel good, and creating rhythms of activity and rest that support your natural cycles. When health practices align with pleasure and self-love, they become sustainable and transformative. Here's an exercise. Choose one small health practice that will feel nurturing to your body. Drinking more water, taking a short walk, going to bed earlier, etc. Commit to this practice for 1 week, focusing on how good it feels rather than what you should do. Chapter 15. The Practice of Effortless Living. Living without strain isn't a destination you reach, but a practice you cultivate moment by moment, day by day. It's a way of being that becomes more natural and automatic the more you apply its principles. Like learning to ride a bike, there comes a point where effortless living becomes second nature, requiring less conscious effort and more intuitive flow. The foundation of this practice is awareness, becoming conscious of when you're straining and gently redirecting yourself towards ease. This awareness develops gradually as you pay attention to the signals your body, mind, and emotions send you. Tension in your shoulders, racing thoughts, or feeling overwhelmed all indicate that you've moved away from your natural state of ease. When you notice strain, the solution is always the same. Pause, breathe, and return to the present moment. Ask yourself, what would feel more easeful in this situation? Often the answer is simple. Slow down, let go of perfectionism, ask for help, or just accept what's happening without resistance. The practice of effortless living also involves cultivating trust in life's intelligence and timing. This trust grows stronger each time you witness how things work out in ways you couldn't have planned or forced. The more you practice, the more evidence you gather that life is indeed working for your highest good, even when the path is unclear. Here's a story. Maria received a call that every parent dreads. Her teenage son had been arrested for vandalism. Her first instinct was to panic, to imagine worst-case scenarios, and to frantically call lawyers and friends for advice. Instead, she remembered the principles of effortless living she had been practicing. Sitting in her car outside the police station, Maria closed her eyes and stopped thinking about the problem entirely. Instead, she focused on her breathing and allowed herself to become calm and centered. She thought about approaching the situation with love rather than fear, and with trust rather than panic. When Maria finally entered the police station, she felt peaceful and clear-headed. She listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and spoke to her son with compassion rather than anger. The officer, impressed by her composure and her son's obvious remorse, agreed to a community service arrangement instead of formal charges. Later, her son told her that her calm response had affected him more than any punishment could have. The incident became a turning point in her relationship and in his life. By practicing effortless living in a crisis, Maria had transformed a potential disaster into an opportunity for growth and healing. Here's an exercise. Create a simple daily practice. Each morning, set an intention to notice when you're straining and choose ease instead. Each evening, reflect on one moment when you successfully chose ease over strain, no matter how small, and go to bed in that state. Epilogue. You've now discovered the secret that transforms struggle into serenity, effort into ease, and strain into strength. Living without strain isn't a magic formula that eliminates all challenges from life, but it's something far more valuable. A way of being that allows you to navigate any challenge with grace, wisdom, and inner peace. Throughout this journey, you've learned that strain isn't a necessary part of living, but a learned response that can be unlearned. You've discovered that life isn't a battle to be won, but a dance to be enjoyed. You've seen that your greatest power lies not in forcing outcomes, but in aligning with intelligent forces that are always working for your highest good. The practices you've learned, letting go, trusting the process, allowing, flowing, and choosing ease, These aren't merely techniques to be applied in difficult moments. They are invitations to a completely new way of living, a way that honors both your human experience and your spiritual nature, a way that allows you to be fully engaged with life while remaining centered in peace. As you continue on your path, remember that mastering effortless living is in itself an effortless process. You don't need to strain to eliminate stress or struggle to find ease. Simply return again and again to these principles, gently and consistently, like a river that carves through rock, not by force, but through persistent flow. The world needs more people who have learned to live without stress. People who can remain calm in chaos, loving in conflict, and creative in crisis. As you embody these qualities, you become a source of peace and inspiration for others, showing by your example that another way of living is possible. Your journey to effortless living has begun, but it has no end. Each day offers new opportunities to choose ease over strain, trust over worry, and love over fear. Each moment is a chance to remember that life is meant to be filled with joy, not struggle. The wisdom is in you. The path is before you. Step forward into the life of ease and flow that has been waiting for you all along. Live without strain, love without limit. Trust the process. Choose ease. Your effortless life begins now. The end. Thanks for listening. Please drop a like and subscribe to our channel so that you won't miss as we release other motivational and inspirational content. Thank you again for listening. Peace and blessings be upon you and yours. Have a fantastic day.